We all know the prototype hasn't been using a voice of his own. He's been borrowing them from everyone else. But believe it or not, every chapter that includes the prototype has given us a direct answer to this, specifically near the end of them. But by the end of this video, we actually end up having more questions than answers for the prototype. Let's start with the ones the game straight up tells us about. During the train chase sequence in chapter 5, the prototype cycles through voices, and the subtitles literally label who he's mimicking. Right at the start of the sequence, seconds after Huggy and Kissy get stabbed, he uses Elliot Ludwig's voice to say, "Poppy, come back." He's using her own father's voice to try to get her to listen. The one voice that Poppy could never ignore, and the prototype knows that. He's not just copying Ludwig, he's weaponizing the one person Poppy trusted more than anyone to try and manipulate her into coming back to him. Then he uses Dewey's voice screaming.
We just turned again.
I didn't even notice this.
This comes straight from Dewey's.
No, we're not pushing past that. That's a mistake.
He copies Poppy, saying,
You and me.
All right, I'm popping there for the last time. Did y'all hear that laughter in the back?
This comes directly from the cassette tape in chapter 5, Sisters, where Poppy is comforting Kissy.
Let's be scared together.
He mimics Mommy Longlegs yelling, and later he does it again. And this is from when we run away from the statues game in chapter 2. She been dead for 2 chapters and he still got her voice on speed dial. And then we hear Dewey again. And this is his boss fights at the end of chapter 4.
Let's go.
And then Harley Sawyer's voice saying,
You'll die for this.
Using the doctor's voice to threaten us. This is directly from the Experiment 1354 tape, where Sawyer is crashing out on Leith and everyone present for what they just done to him.
You'll die for this, Leith. When I get my hands on you, you're dead.
The very first time the prototype ever speaks in the game is back in chapter 3 in VHS tape log 24459, where he says to Sawyer,
Absolutely. I learn something new about you every day.
and the game doesn't exactly label it as mimicking Sawyer, but he clearly is. Our first real interaction heard of the prototype's voice, and it wasn't even his. He was mocking Sawyer with Sawyer's own voice. 6 different voices from 6 different characters, all coming out of one monster. This dude is a whole walking soundboard, and these are just the ones they label. The prototype's most used voice across the game is Ollie's. That's because Ollie is him, Oliver. 3 voice actors play him across 3 chapters. Reed Oski in chapter 3, Jonah Lynn Alonzo in chapter 4, Amanda Huford in chapter 5. The same character, 3 different voices. Now in Reed's case, the community actually figured out why he was recast. Reed hit puberty between chapters, so his voice literally changed. But even if the voice actor changes were practical, in game it raises some interesting questions. Is Oliver's voice deteriorating over time? Was the prototype getting tired of keeping the Ollie voice, deciding to give it up by the end of chapter 4? Because in chapter 3, Ollie sounds like a friendly kid helping us out. In chapter 4, he's noticeably more serious. And by the end of chapter 4, in the ventilation block, the mask comes off completely. But there's one moment that might actually give us the first time Oliver's voice started changing. In the chapter 5 cassette tape between Elliot's and the prototype, we hear Oliver speaking right after the experiment was done to him. And when Elliot tries to call him by his name, Oliver snaps.
My boy.
You don't get to call me that. Ollie's gone and I'm a test run. The prototype.
And listen to his voice when he says it. It starts higher pitched like a kid, and then it gets deeper, more distorted, static breaking through. You can literally hear his voice shifting in real time, breaking apart, going from Oliver to something else.
When you get her back, you'll pick up a hammer just like him. Just like
By the end of that line, he doesn't sound like the child anymore. That tape might be the exact moment we hear Oliver's voice break for the first time. Not losing control, but gaining it. The first sign that he could shift his voice into something else entirely. And when we actually hear the prototype speak as himself throughout chapter 5, the Ollie voice is gone. He never deliberately uses it for a full sentence. You can catch little pieces of it, certain words like when he says Poppy's name.
Don't be afraid.
I can fix you, Poppy.
You can hear a trace of Ollie bleeding through, but he never commits to it. It's like fragments of Oliver leaking out of something that isn't Oliver anymore. So did Oliver choose to stop using his own voice, or did the experiment take it from him? Because the Ollie voice was the most convincing disguise in the entire game, and the prototype only used it when he needed us to trust him. The second he didn't need us anymore, it disappeared. We already covered the voices the game labels for us, but when you go into the credits and cross-reference the prototype's voice actor list with every other character in the game, there is a lot more hiding in there that the game never pointed out. The credits don't lie. Starting with the big names. Robin Nelson also voices Leif Pierre. Tom Schlack voices Elliot Ludwig, and Christopher Tester voices Eddie Ritterman. We've heard him directly mimic Ludwig, but Leif and Eddie are harder to catch.
Don't look at me.
need to play it being stronger than you are.
He uses Eddie's voice a few times in the ventilation block at the end of chapter 4, and you can hear Leif in the way he says,
They can't leave, and they can't stay.
and this was directly from the interrogation tape when the prototype mimicked it, but I have no clue where he got it from, so let me know down in the comments if you know. Most of them are buried in the mix, blending into phrases where you really have to listen to pick them out. But that's 3 of the most powerful people at Playtime Co., and the prototype has all of their voices. They might have gotten got, bro. Tragic. Rest in peace. Then there are the experiments. Avalon Delaney voices Miss Delight. And if you need proof that her voice is in there, just look back at the interrogation tape when the prototype says,
Of this.
Remember, the cost for a lie is...
that is Miss Delight. Her words, her tone coming right out of the prototype. Now, if you're wondering when there was a moment where they both interacted with each other, I actually have an answer for that. I have no clue. Jen Suwanas voices Baba Chops. Ben Rooker voices Yarnaby. Elijah Delaney voices Kickin' Chicken. And one of the sound effects the prototype uses is actually a character exclusively in chapter 3. And of all the voice lines he's decided to copy, he chose the infamous cardboard cutout audio of Dog Days screaming as his legs are slowly cut off. And what's crazy about this is that it might confirm who was really behind what happened to Dog Day. We always assumed it was Catnap doing the dirty work, but if the prototype has Dog Day screaming on playback, maybe he was more directly involved than we thought. These are toys scattered across completely different parts of the factory, Playcare or Safe Haven, and the school. The prototype has been collecting voices from experiments all over the building. Micah Preciado voices the Huggy Wuggy cardboard cutout. Huggy himself never actually speaks in the game, he just screeches. But those cutouts have been playing voice lines around the factory for years. The prototype has been lurking in this building for over a decade. Every cutout, every tape, every voice echoing through the halls, he's heard all of it, and apparently stored even those too. Then there are the random employees and smaller characters. John Winfield voices a security staffer and a prototype loyalist. Jack Stansbury voices a marketing junior. Maggie Elise voices Scout. Emmanuel Alejandro voices Gomez. And several of these actors also voice Automos. August, Emmanuel, Alejandro, John, Valentin, and Jack all voice different Automos, which makes sense considering the prototype has been experimenting on them in the labs, turning them wrong side out. And then there's the laugh. Go back and listen to it again. Really listen, because this isn't a normal laugh. It's hysterical, intense, almost unhinged. One deeper laugh like a grown adult, then a higher pitched one right after. Both distorted and covered in static. This is the same laugh that plays during his jump scare when he catches us in the train chase. Every other mimic line he does, you can pick out who it belongs to. But the laugh? Who was laughing in there? Whose laugh did he take? When thinking about the lore, it's honestly one of the most unsettling sounds he makes, and most people don't even think about it. All of these voices, the executives, the experiments, the employees, the cutouts, the outimals, they all come together to form the crazy amalgamation of sounds that we hear every time the prototype opens his mouth. That layered, distorted, shifting voice isn't one person. It's dozens of them all bleeding into each other at once. But there are still voice actors on the list that don't match any known character. Anthony, Lane, Spicer, Elliot. Voices coming out of the prototype that we cannot identify. Not tied to any experiment, any employee, any cutout, anything. So who are they? Experiments locked away in the labs we haven't found yet? The factory has over 1,400 on record, and we've only met a handful. With chapter 6 on the way, some of those known voices might finally get names attached to them. So we've got the who, we got the how, the where, and the why is still wide open, and it leaves us with so many questions. How is he doing this? Something about the voice box Elliot built for him? Do all the experiments have voice boxes that match their original human voice? Does Poppy sound like how she sounded when she was alive? Is the Poppy gel involved somehow? And where did he hear all of these voices in the first place? He worked with Sawyer and was checked up on by him. He was made by Elliot and spoke with him too. He's been in the factory long enough to hear every cutout and tape on loop. But Miss Delight was locked in the school. Some factory employees had no idea about the experiments. When did he get close enough to pick up their voices? Then there's the why. Is he doing it on purpose to manipulate people? We saw him use Ludwig's voice to call Poppy back. He used Dewey's voice during the train chase to intimidate us. Or could it tie back to the moment he was created when he told Elliot that Ali is gone? He wasn't just rejecting his name, he was rejecting everything about who he used to be. So maybe copying everyone else is his way of proving that Oliver doesn't exist anymore, that there is no real person left to speak with a real voice. Just the prototype, a blank slate filled with everyone else. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.